Yeah, never say never. If somebody said, "Hey, could you write a book about it?" Then I'd be like, "Right, okay, I'll write a book
Mm.
about it." Um, so yeah, but I like the fact that the music stuff has led to other forms of creativity, such as the article writing and kind of podcasts and interviews. So I've done a few now, and when I did my first one, I was so scared. It's like I will
Mm.
stand in assembly and talk to 600 children, but sitting on a podcast, I was absolutely terrified. But actually, the more that I get into it, the more I enjoy it. So, and I think that's a form of creativity as well, because I'm kind of sharing my creative process with people. So, yeah, it's funny how music has kind of led to other creative forms of expression.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today our special guest is coming from Southampton, UK, and has just released a debut album called Refocus. Our guest today is Kat Button. Kat, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, Ryan. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on, and I just announced that you have a an album that was just recently released. Can you tell us a bit about the album and the genres?
Sure. So the album was released on Friday, the 19th of September, and it is an album about my mental health journey and recovery from hopelessness to hopefulness. So there are 10 tracks in the album, and the very first track is called Begging You to Go, and that talks about when I was newly diagnosed with OCD, because there's a lot of stigma about it. So I wanted to create a single to begin my album that basically kind of breaks the stereotype of what people think OCD is and what it actually is. And then the rest of the tracks in the album basically look at different aspects of mental health. So, for example, track two, Anxiety Strikes, is about anxiety, funnily enough. Track three is called Alone with My Mind, and that investigates and looks at overthinking at night time. So when the world is very quiet, but the mind internally is racing. And then it kind of carries on to track four, which is Chasing My Breakthrough, which is basically I wrote it when I was angry. I think angry songwriting is amazing. I love it. It's great. And it was a way of me to kind of get my frustrations down on paper because I was chasing not only a mental health breakthrough at that point, but also a musical breakthrough. Because as an artist, you get lots of no's and lots of rejections, and it can be really difficult. And then the reason why the album's called Refocus is predominantly down to track five, which is called CBT. Now, CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, and it is one of the main ways actually, in which people can be treated for OCD. And thanks to the therapy that I received, I was able to refocus my thoughts into, well, a future that was brighter and more positive. And that's reflected in the rest of the album, which just sounds more positive, happier. And it just has this real message of you can overcome difficulties and things can get better and will get better. So that's kind of the general overview of the album, kind of going from the darkness to the light.
And for someone who hasn't heard it, how would you explain the usage of different genres in it?
Yeah, so normally I write in a kind of pop, dance pop, EDM, light trance kind of style, but I wanted to use different genres to kind of help create soundscapes that depict different stages of the journey. So, for example, track one portrays kind of the beginning of the journey, newly diagnosed, and I was diagnosed in 2004. So I wanted to create a soundscape based on the music of that time. So lots of R&B kind of influences in there, garage, and being in Southampton. It's, the garage scene is massive. So I really wanted to get that in there. And then there's kind of a mix of electro pop, for example, a little bit of light techno. So all the different genres kind of help to tell the story. So another example, Ryan, is in track 3, which is called Alone with My Mind. The mood is very different. It's very calm. Well, it starts very calm, but I wanted to create kind of chill pop so that it was setting the scene for what it was like externally, being in the middle of the night. But then as the track progresses, there's more of an urgency to it. So I think overall, the different use of genres helps to set the scene for all the different pages, if you were, in this musical storybook. And I think it's just one way that I, as a musician, like to tell the story in my way better, if that makes sense.
Yes. And where did you find an interest in music to begin with?
Or where did it start? I love this question. So the other day I went to see my parents and they got the photos out. And I distinctly remember, Ryan, that they showed me this picture of me when I was 3. And it was it's great seeing that picture. And it was a picture of me at my nursery Christmas show. And I'm standing in the middle of, I think there's 4 children in total. And the other 3 children and myself are all playing jingle bells on the sleigh bells, and they look so bored. And then there's me living my best life, waving those sleigh bells as if my life depended on it, living the dream. And it's kind of never really disappeared from there, really. Started learning the clarinet at the age of 7, recorder as well. So always did concerts and shows at school, and then started learning the piano later on. That then kind of led to doing music at university. So I studied music in Southampton, and I stayed as a result. Um, and then I then decided that I wanted to help inspire children in their love of music. So I decided to train to be a secondary school, I think it's high school where you are, so high school music teacher. But I then decided that my personality, I'm a little bit crazy. So I thought my personality kind of lends itself better to smaller children. So I then started to work in primary education, so ages 5 to 11. And so that was all lovely and continued. And then things kind of changed when obviously the pandemic hit, and I discovered a love for music production. So I started on GarageBand and started creating songs, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So I then spent every spare opportunity I had, which with, you know, a job and a business and family is quite tricky to find the time, but I made the time somehow, and I produced more, and then that kind of carried on, which was great. But I'd always wanted to record music. I'd always been writing songs, but I'd never felt brave enough to write songs about my mental health journey until I did a course about mental health in 2022, which didn't trigger me. And I was like, oh, okay. So at that point, I thought, now's the time to finally, after all these years of not feeling able to do it, go into the studio, record some songs, and maybe, just maybe, be brave enough to release them into the wild. And the first track of my album, Begging You to Go, was the first song I recorded in the studio. And honestly, Ryan, I don't think there are any words to describe just how amazing that was to finally be in a position to do something you've wanted to do for so long, put it off for various different reasons, and finally hearing your song back that you just recorded, it was pretty emotional, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, that's how it's kind of how it all started and how it continued. And then I decided on the 7th of March 2025, I'm finally going to release music. And after waiting so long to release one song, I released I released 5 singles in 5 months and then released an album. It's all or nothing. There's no in between. So yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy journey, and a long time coming. But I think I'm very much, somebody that likes to look at the positives. Waiting so long has given me more things to write about as well. It's given me more experience as well. So I'm just grateful that I've got in that position where it's finally out.
My next question for you is, can you choose a track from your album Refocus and break it down for us?
Sure. Oh, I think I'm going to choose Happy Place, which is track 6 on the album. And I love this one for so many reasons. So number one, I wanted to create an anthemic, euphoric track that depicts what it feels like to be going to your happy place. So not actually at your happy place, but the journey. So I don't know if you've ever had the experience of when you're on the way to somewhere really cool. It's not just once you're there that it's really cool. The journey to the place can also be really exciting. And I wanted to depict that in my song. But the interesting thing about it is that a couple of people have pointed out is it's actually in a minor key. And now I love writing happy songs in minor keys because I think in this situation, if you're looking forward to going to your happy place, not always, but a lot of the time you're going from a situation that's maybe not as enjoyable and not as fun to somewhere else. And I love the fact that the minor key kind of portrays the moving from maybe the not so great places to the happier times, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So one of my favorite musicians is Jean-Michel Jarre. Now he's a French electronic musician, and I fell in love with his music from the age of 7 because my dad and I watched Jean-Michel Jarre's La Défense concert that he held in Paris in 1990 on VHS, good old VHS back in the day. And I was absolutely mesmerized by the use of synths, just the creativity that he had. And he and still is, he at the time was a guy that was pushing boundaries. His creativity knew no bounds. He was doing stuff that a lot of other people weren't doing until much, much later. And the use of textures and his understanding of musicality and orchestrating and arranging. And I wanted to bring some of that sound into that track. Because yeah, I'm just a huge fan of his music. Um, I also wanted to create a track that kind of reminds me a little bit of the times when my dad and I used to watch Jean-Michel Jarre on the TV. And yeah, it's one of my dad's favorite tracks, I think, for that very reason. So yeah, the song itself, so obviously it's inspired by Jean-Michel Jarre. It contains lots of synths. I love synths, synthesizers, kind of very 90s influenced, because I'm a huge 90s dance music fan. I'm also a massive fan of drops. So when you have the bridge and then you have the final drop into the final chorus, it's just like bam, it's just like really intense. So I wanted the final chorus in the song to be this celebration, this anthemic conclusion of joy, even though it's in the minor key, just to really be like, hey, you know what? We are on the way to this happy place. So yeah, that's where that came about, and it's definitely one of my favorite songs, probably my favorite song in the album.
Thank you. And for your album, Refocus, you were saying earlier that it's also bringing awareness to mental health, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Can you share what was it like for you writing each song and how meaningful was it for you to be able to do this and then make an actual album and put it out there for the world to listen?
Yeah, interesting question. I think it was scary. That's why I put it off for so long. First of all, I didn't feel strong enough to write about it until I did that course and I wasn't triggered. But also, it comes from a very deep frustration of mental health being stereotyped and misunderstood. So, for example, a lot of people use the term a little bit OCD to describe people that are quite particular about something or want something in a certain way. And I think Ryan's society kind of gets used to these phrases, oh, excuse me, but doesn't understand exactly what it is. So once I felt brave enough to actually put pen to paper and write the album, my desire to first of all educate people about the reality of some of these conditions, because bearing in mind, a lot of the time you can't see what's going on inside your head. You know, you kind of look at the exterior and nobody has any idea what's going on inside. I wanted to educate and raise awareness. So that was the first thing. I then wanted to show people that actually there is hope for recovery. It can be painful and it can be long and it can be difficult, but there is. And, you know, things aren't perfect. You know, OCD for me doesn't go away, but I've learned how to control it with the therapy and meds and medication and self-care. So yeah, it was very important for me to show the progression from the beginning to how things are now, and also to educate at the same time.
And how has music helped you during this journey?
Um, Words cannot even begin to describe how much. Music is my safe place. Music is my therapy. Music is my creative outlet. If I'm happy, I'll make music. If I'm feeling frustrated, I'll make music. I will make music in, depending on how I feel in every, however I'm feeling. And it's at the beginning, I wasn't very good at confiding in people when I was struggling. And for me, the thing that helped was basically writing about it. I'm much better now at reaching out, and track 8 together talks about reaching out to people. But at the beginning, I found it very difficult to reach out, but I found it easier to write about it. Hence, track 1, begging you to go.
In talking about writing about it, my question for you now is, do you see your creativity evolving from doing music to the possibility of maybe even publishing a book since you're already writing?
Yeah, it's so funny because life has this funny way of giving you opportunities that you never thought you would ever do. So I totally intended to write an album, but I didn't know that I would have some articles published in mental health publications, which are coming up, which I've always been told that I've had a way with words, that, I'm creative and that I have a way with words, but I never thought about maybe pursuing that direction. Number one, because things seemed a little bit overwhelming. I had lots of stuff going on, but also it just never really entered my conscience really. But I actually really enjoy it. So I don't know. I never say never because you never know. Yeah, life has a funny way of taking you on journeys that you never thought. So yeah,
Well,
I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
in your mind, can you already see chapter one of your book?
No. I mean, to be fair, I mean, not at the moment, but like I said, I wouldn't rule anything out. I've thoroughly surprised myself at how much I've enjoyed writing articles, and yeah, never say never. If somebody said, "Hey, could you write a book about it?" then I'd be like, "Right, okay, I'll write a book
Mm.
about it." Um, so yeah, but I like the fact that the music stuff has led to other forms of creativity, such as the article writing and kind of podcasts and interviews. So I've done a few now, and when I did my first one, I was so scared. It's like I will
Mm.
stand in assembly and talk to 600 children, but sitting on a podcast, I was absolutely terrified. But actually, the more that I get into it, the more I enjoy it. So, and I think that's a form of creativity as well, because I'm kind of sharing my creative process with people. So, yeah, it's funny how music has kind of led to other creative forms of expression.
Yeah. So, do you think you'll be having your own podcast next?
Oh, don't ask me those questions. I've been toying with the idea. I just don't know
Or,
at the moment. Just time.
well, if
I can't.
ever you decide to do even a mini series, let me know and I'll be subscribing.
Oh, see, that's pressure now. So I'm going to write a book, do a podcast, do my job, do my articles, run a house. Yeah,
Well, that's the beauty of creativity is that there are so
yeah.
many doors and opportunities that one can take. But we'll take it one thing at a time. And today we're going to focus on refocus
Hmm.
and the process that you took. Now, can you walk us through? You've already spoken about the writing. Now,
Hmm.
how was it executing the actual album, getting it recorded and putting it out there? How did you feel personally uh, doing this project?
Well, what I would say, Ryan, is if a musician or an artist is looking at producing an album, if you don't completely do everything yourself, like the mixing and the mastering and all that kind of stuff, choose a good producer or a good recording artist. So, what I did was I produced the tracks myself. So, I did them all at home. I did all the instruments at home. I did all the producing at home. And then I took them to a recording engineer. He's now a friend. I definitely class him as a friend. He's great, called Will. And he was so respectful of the nature of the music and the topics. So I think it's super important that you find somebody that gets your vision, that understands why you're doing what you're doing. And then it makes the process so much smoother and actually less nerve-wracking and more enjoyable. So that was step one, get a good recording engineer. And then we kind of recorded the tracks over over a year or so. So we did, I think we recorded them over about a year or so. And it would usually start with he'd kind of tweak the production that I'd done, and then he'd re-record my vocals. I'd re-record my harmonies because his equipment's much better than mine. I've got like a tiny mic at home and my setup isn't very good at home. So he did all of that. And then that was kind of over a few sessions, so which took about a year in total. And then after that, he would mix and master all of the tracks, which again, because of saving up and money and all that kind of stuff, took a little while. Um, but yeah, it was really nice because we're both very creative and the ideas that we had kind of bounced off each other. So he would say, "Hey, I like the fact that you did this drop. how about having this transition beforehand? I think that would be really good. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, we just really kind of fed off each other, and honestly, it made the whole process so much more enjoyable. And actually, as a parent, it was kind of me time. So
Mhm.
his studio's in the middle of the countryside, horses in the, horses overlooking the studio. It's quite idyllic, and it was very much kind of escapism and me time. So that helps as well, knowing that I'm going to spend a whole day at a time doing music was great. So yeah, it was just a very enjoyable experience, mostly because I was fulfilling a lifelong dream, working with a fantastic recording engineer that got my vision, that I got on with as a friend. And he made me coffee. So that's always good, just getting the coffee going. Um, yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
And is there an experience from this whole creative journey and making your album that sticks out to you?
I think it will have to be the very first time I went into the recording booth and then listened back to what I had recorded. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And I think I was on like a 2 week high. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was just so excited. I don't think anything can prepare you for when you've started to realize a lifelong dream. So yeah, that feeling will forever live in my memory.
And so now for this part of the interview, I want to now focus on your evolution. So you first started off loving Jingle Bells, I believe you
It's a
said
great
in the
tune.
beginning. Is there any chance that you'll do a cover of this song eventually?
What are Jingle Bells?
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that because my Instagram, so I'm a bit strange, as you can see. I'm very creative and I have all these ideas in my head, and I've done versions of, I think I've done like a song about tea bags on my Instagram. And so yeah, I wouldn't rule it out, to be fair, Ryan. I wouldn't rule anything out. Together with my podcast, I could do a podcast about G like Jingle Bell covers. That I don't know how successful that would be, but I could do. Um, Never rule anything out, Ryan. I maybe.
You have your album, it's
Hmm.
out. Are you
Hmm.
working on any other projects for the near future?
Is this musical projects or
Yes,
just
musical
yeah?
projects.
Yeah, so I am still writing more music, and it's interesting, Ryan, because I think one of the reasons why my album was kind of more multi-genre, for the reasons as well as the reasons that I've already stated, was also I was discovering myself musically after so long not releasing music. So I think I've now realized that dance pop, EDM music is a genre that I really want to discover and explore more. So my next tracks, and in fact my next album, will be completely EDM.
Cool. And we see that your taste in music is of a wide variety. Would you say that there are any particular artists out there, musicians, besides the French one that you mentioned earlier, who have had an impact on your music?
Yeah, so I have had my album reviewed, which was really cool. And it's funny because one of the reviewers actually picked up on some of the sound influences that I have in the album, and one of them's Moby. So I'm a huge 90s fan of music, all 90s music, in particular dance, but all sorts. And Moby is a definite kind of somebody that I really admire. And basically just 90s dance. I mean, I love Entrance and yeah, Cafe Del Mar and so much of the 90s synth sounds and the piano riffs that they use. So there's a lot of 90s influence, which I think has come back a little bit recently. There seem to be quite a few EDM artists that are using those kind of flavors again, which is cool. So yeah, just a lot of 90s stuff whilst trying to keep it modern as well.
Mhm. And is there a favorite track that you, favorite song that you have from Moby?
I mean, Porcelain's good.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it is a good tune. That's definitely my favorite. Yeah.
So you mentioned that the reviewer was able to pick out the influences. What song was it that you would say is highly influenced by Moby?
Um, it's not a big part of it. It's just I think the reviewer mentioned there was a bit of a chord progression, like a little bit of kind of the way that the chords were in the bridge of Happy Place a little bit. I mean, to be fair, it was just by accident, but I think subconsciously you kind of have an idea of, you know, what Moby does as a musician, and it just kind of ends up kind of filtering through into my own stuff.
So we've spoken a bit about how you have been influenced by other artists,
Mhm.
musicians in the past. How do you wish to influence your listeners and those who, of course, want to perhaps follow in your footsteps?
Well, Ron, I think the main thing is that in the music industry in particular, there is a lot of stereotypical views about mental health. The music industry is tough anyway, and there is a lot of issues with mental ill health in the music industry. I think a lot of people have been made to think that if you sing about mental ill health, that's not great for your image, or it's maybe frowned upon. But I think it's really important to sing about these things because then people realize that A, they're not alone, B, that there is hope, and C, I think the more people that do start to sing about these things, then even more people will start to sing about it. So if somebody was listening to my songs and thinking, oh, hey, I'm not alone, you know, Kat's gone through this, or hey, Kat's been through this and, you know, she's got better, or oh, you know what, I could write about my own experiences and actually that's a positive thing because it can help others, then I've done my job. I'm happy.
My next question is, are there any upcoming music artists out there that you suggest we keep an eye out for?
I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair, there's so many people. I don't want to just name a few. I think basically there's so many people in the indie community that are struggling to make a name for themselves. But it's hard. It's hard to get noticed. It's hard to get that break. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. I see it every second of every day, and I just wish that I could mention everybody because a lot of people have become my friends as well. So I don't know. I don't think I could just name two. I could if you had like a day, I could literally list them all off. But I think indie music in general, I think they support regardless of what they sing about, if it's mental health or not, because it's so hard. You know, a lot of indie artists are struggling financially, they're struggling emotionally, they're struggling to continue to write because they think, well, my music isn't being seen as well as it could be. What's the point? Well, you know, luckily, I know that I have a point for my music and that's my motivation. But a lot of people who are indie artists, they sometimes struggle. So I think, you know, you have all these big artists that have record deals, but it's good to remember and support indie artists as well because so much music that I love is made by indie artists.
Thank you. And my last question is, uh, Kat, why is creativity important for you?
How long have you got? So for me, creativity is for me, my form of expressing myself with my art. So it's been true. Creativity helps me be true and express myself authentically. Some people do it in different ways, but for me, being creative, it's my way of being true to myself, sharing, my thoughts and my feelings, and also I think it just makes me happy. I love being creative. It gives me so much joy. It gives me so much happiness, and yeah, I'm lucky enough to be very, very creative, but I also have ADHD. So for me as well, I find that the ADHD helps with my creativity because my mind is so hyperactive that actually the creativity gives my hyperactive mind an outlet. So not only is it good to express my feelings and my thoughts, it is actually helpful for my health because it helps to channel all of these thoughts and hyperactivity into creativity that makes me happy and can be beneficial to others as well.
And so, thank you so much, Kat, for sharing your love for creativity and for music and for sharing your music to the world. Now, for those who are in the audience who are interested, where can they listen to your music?
Yeah, great. So my music is available on all streaming services. So for example, Spotify and Apple Music and all the other ones as well. I'm also on Instagram, so cat_songwriter, and I'm also on TikTok as well. And I do make a lot of really silly videos because I think as much as mental health is quite a serious topic, I think adding some humor in there makes it a little bit more approachable, and it helps people to kind of embrace it. And yeah, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It just helps it to be more accessible. There we go.
Yes.
Accessible to more people.
Yeah, so for those in the audience, go check out her music, Cat Button, and I know I'll be listening to your album Refocus, and I'll be anticipating your next album whenever that is released. But before we go, you also mentioned that you are going to be having an online event. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to get my phone so I can tell you all the details. Yeah, so I was very lucky, or I've been very lucky to be asked to be involved in an event which is called One Day Rebellion, which is a creative and entrepreneurial day of fashion, let's talk, sessions, music, poetry, and showcases. And I'm going to be performing some of my songs acoustically. I'm really excited, and that's going to be online and live. But yeah, the virtual event is going to be online on October the 29th, Wednesday, October the 29th. And yeah, tickets are available now.
Excellent. So thank you for sharing. And for the audience, don't forget to like, subscribe. Please feel free to comment. And please share this episode so that other people may also discover the amazing music by our guest today, Cat Button. And Kat, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast, Creativity Worth Expressing.
Oh, you're very welcome. When I get my album with Jingle Bell remixes, you'll be the first person to know. Yeah, I'll credit you as well. So yeah, I'll thank you for giving me the inspiration.
Thank you.